3. True Chick-Fil-A Horror Stories Story. On the Closing Shift, Part 1. My name is Marcus. I was 19 years old and working the closing shift at a Chick-fil-A in suburban Atlanta, Georgia. It was a Saturday night, 9:45 p.m., and the dining area was almost empty. Almost. There was a man in a grey hoodie who had been sitting in the corner booth for 3 hours. He ordered 1 cup of water when he came in. That was it. And the whole time, he just kept staring at the counter, staring at me. That night, I had to close alone because my co-worker called in sick. Before I begin, if you enjoy true scary stories, hit that subscribe button and stay until the end, because what happened in that store still haunts me. Part 2. I had been working at that Chick-fil-A for about 8 months. The job was easy. The people were nice. The closing shift was usually my favorite, because the rush died down after 8, and I could just clean up, listen to music through one earbud, and count down the minutes until I could go home. That night started like any other. The smell of fried chicken and waffle fries hung in the air. The soft Christian music played through the speakers. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Everything felt normal. Around 8 p.m., my co-worker Tyler texted me. He said he had food poisoning and could not make it. I called my manager, and she said I could handle closing alone since it was a slow night. I had done it a few times before, so I was not worried. The dining area had maybe 5 or 6 customers when I started my closing duties. I wiped down tables, refilled the napkin dispensers, and swept the floors near the drink station. One by one, the customers left. Except for him. The man in the grey hoodie sat in the booth farthest from the counter, right next to the window that faced the parking lot. He was maybe 40 years old, with a scruffy beard, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His hood was up, even though it was warm inside. He had a cup of water in front of him, but I never saw him drink from it. What bothered me was the way he sat. He was not looking at his phone. He was not reading anything. He was just sitting there completely still, with his eyes fixed on the counter area. On me. I told myself he was probably just some lonely guy who wanted to sit somewhere warm. We got those sometimes. Homeless people, travelers, folks who just needed a place to rest. It was not my job to judge. But something about him felt different. Part 3. At 9:30, I walked to the center of the dining area and announced that we will be closing in 30 minutes. Most fast food places just let customers sit until they're done. But our manager wanted us to give a heads up so we could finish cleaning on time. The 2 remaining customers, a young couple sharing a milkshake, nodded and started gathering their things. The man in the grey hoodie did not react. He did not even blink. I went back to wiping tables, working my way closer to his booth. I figured I would give him a gentle reminder face to face that we were closing soon. As I wiped the table next to his, I could feel his eyes on me. The hairs on my arms stood up. I turned to him and said, "Sir, just letting you know we are closing at 10 tonight." He looked at me for a long moment. His eyes were pale, almost grey, and there was something empty about them, something that made my stomach tighten. Then he smiled. It was a slow smile, like he was savouring something. "You closing alone tonight?" he asked. My heart skipped. How did he know to ask that? Maybe he just noticed there was only one employee visible. That had to be it. "No," I lied. "My manager is in the back doing inventory." He nodded slowly. still smiling. "Good," he said. "That is good." He stood up, and I noticed how tall he was. At least 6'3" with broad shoulders. He walked past me toward the door, and I caught a smell coming off him. Something stale and sour like old sweat, and something else I could not identify. At the door, he stopped and looked back at me. "See you soon, Marcus," he said. Then he walked out into the parking lot and disappeared into the darkness. I stood there, frozen. I never told him my name. My name tag had fallen off earlier that day, and I had not replaced it yet. There was no way he could have known my name. Part 4. I locked the front door at 10 p.m. sharp. My hands were shaking a little as I turned the key. I kept telling myself I was overreacting. Maybe he had heard another employee say my name earlier. Maybe he was a regular I did not remember. There had to be a logical explanation. I went back to the kitchen to finish cleaning. The fryers needed to be drained, the prep stations needed to be sanitized, and the floors needed to be mopped. I tried to focus on the tasks, but I kept glancing at the security monitor mounted on the wall near the office. The monitor showed 4 camera feeds: the front counter, the dining area, the drive-thru window, and the back door. Everything looked normal. The parking lot was empty, except for my car and the manager's car, which she'd left there because her husband picked her up earlier. I was draining the fryer oil when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the back door. I froze. The back door was the employee entrance. It opened into a small alley between our building and the strip mall next door. Customers never went back there. There was no reason for anyone to be at that door at 10 o'clock at night. I walked slowly to the security monitor and looked at the feed for the back door. My blood went cold. The man in the grey hoodie was standing right outside the back door, looking directly up at the camera. He was smiling, that same slow smile. How did he know where the back door was? Customers never saw that entrance. It was around a corner, down a narrow alley, completely out of sight from the main parking lot. You would have to know the layout of the building to find it. He knocked again. Knock, knock, knock. I grabbed my phone and called my manager. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. On the monitor, the man leaned closer to the camera. He mouthed something. I could not hear him through the door, but I could read his lips. "Let me in, Marcus." I backed away from the monitor. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. I texted Tyler, even though I knew he was sick. I texted my manager again. I even thought about calling the police. But what would I say? There's a man knocking on the door. He had not done anything illegal. Not yet. On the monitor, the man stepped back from the door. He stood there for a moment, head tilted like he was listening. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing around the corner of the building. I watched the monitor for 5 minutes. He did not come back. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. Maybe he was just some crazy person. Maybe he gave up. I just needed to finish closing and get out of there. Part 5. I worked as fast as I could. I skipped some of the cleaning tasks that could wait until tomorrow. I just wanted to get out of that building. At 10:25, I went into the walk-in cooler to grab the box of lettuce that needed to be moved to the front for the morning shift. The cooler was in the back corner of the kitchen, a big metal room that stayed at 38 degrees. The walls were lined with shelves of ingredients, and the door was heavy and thick. I stepped inside and grabbed the box of lettuce. That is when I heard it. Footsteps, not from inside the cooler, from the kitchen. Someone was walking around in the kitchen. I set the box down as quietly as I could. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I had locked the front door. I had not opened the back door. There was no way anyone could be inside, but the footsteps were real. I could hear them clearly now, slow, deliberate steps on the tile floor, moving closer to the cooler. I looked at the cooler door. It did not have a lock on the inside. If someone wanted to open it, there was nothing I could do to stop them. I reached for my phone, but my pocket was empty. I had left my phone on the counter by the fryer. I was trapped in a freezing metal box with no way to call for help. The footsteps stopped right outside the cooler door. I held my breath. The cold air burned my lungs, but I did not dare move. Through the small gap at the bottom of the door, I could see a shadow, 2 feet standing inches from the door. Then a voice, his voice, calm and almost friendly. "Marcus, I know you are in there." Part 6. My entire body went rigid. He was inside. He'd gotten inside somehow, and he knew exactly where I was. "Come on out," he said. His voice was muffled by the thick door, but I could hear every word. "I just want to talk. We can be friends, Marcus. I have been watching you for a while now. You seem like a nice kid." I pressed myself against the back wall of the cooler, as far from the door as I could get. My breath came out in white clouds. The cold was seeping into my bones, but I barely noticed. All I could focus on was the shadow under the door. "I know your schedule," he continued. "I know you work Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I know you drive that little blue Honda. I know you live in the apartment complex on Riverside, the one with the broken gate." He knew where I lived. He had been following me. This was not random. This was not some crazy homeless guy. This was a predator who had been stalking me. The door handle started to move. He was pulling on it. The door was heavy, but it was not locked. There was nothing stopping him from opening it. I grabbed the only thing I could find, a metal shelf bracket that had come loose from the wall. It was not much of a weapon, but it was something. The door cracked open. A sliver of light from the kitchen spilled into the cooler. I could see his fingers wrapped around the edge of the door, pulling it wider. Then headlights swept across the kitchen windows. A car horn honked. Once, twice, 3 times. The door stopped moving. The man's shadow shifted. I heard him curse under his breath, and then footsteps fast this time, running toward the back of the kitchen. I heard the back door slam open, then slam shut. I waited a full minute before I moved. When I finally pushed open the cooler door and stumbled into the kitchen, I saw Tyler standing by the front window, looking confused. Tyler, sick, miserable Tyler, who'd come back to get his phone charger that he left in his locker. I had never been so happy to see anyone in my life. Part 7. I ran to Tyler and grabbed his arm. I must have looked insane because his eyes went wide and he asked me what was wrong. I told him everything. The man in the hoodie, the knocking, the footsteps, the voice outside the cooler door. Tyler's face went pale as I talked. We called the police together. While we waited, Tyler went to check the back door. It was wide open, the lock broken. The man had somehow pried it open while I was busy in the kitchen. He had planned this. He had waited for the right moment. The police arrived in about 10 minutes. They searched the building and the alley, but found nothing. The man was gone. One of the officers reviewed the security footage with me. My stomach turned as I watched. The footage showed the man entering through the back door at 10:18. He moved through the kitchen, slowly checking corners, looking for me. When I went into the cooler, he followed. The footage showed him standing outside the cooler door for almost 2 minutes, just standing there before he started talking to me. If Tyler had not shown up when he did, I do not know what would have happened. Part 8. The police took my statement and said they would increase patrols in the area, but they never caught him. The man in the grey hoodie vanished. My manager pulled the security footage from the previous week. What she found made my skin crawl. The man had come to the store every day for 5 days straight, always sitting in the same booth, always watching me. On some of the footage, you could see him taking notes on a small pad of paper. He was studying me, learning my routine, planning. I quit the closing shift after that. I only work mornings now when the store is full of people and sunlight streams through the windows. I never stay past dark, but that is not the end of the story. 2 weeks after that night, I got a text message from an unknown number. There was no greeting, no explanation, just one sentence. You got lucky, but I know where you live now. I moved out of my apartment the next day. I changed my phone number. I started parking in different spots and taking different routes to work. I became paranoid, always checking my mirrors, always looking over my shoulder. It has been a year since that night. I have not seen the man in the grey hoodie again, but sometimes late at night, I wonder if he is still out there, watching, waiting. Some people say the scariest monsters are the ones that are not real, but I know the truth. The scariest monsters are the ones that look just like everyone else. The ones who sit in the corner booth and smile at you, like they know something you do not. If you work a late shift anywhere, please be careful. Lock your doors. Trust your instincts. And if someone makes you feel unsafe, do not ignore that feeling, because sometimes the danger is closer than you think. Story 2. The Drive-Thru Watcher Part 1. My name is Jessica, and I was 22 years old when this happened. I worked as a team leader at CHICK-FIL-A in the suburbs of Houston, Texas. It was a Friday night, 10:15 p.m., and I was running the drive-thru window alone. That night, a black pickup truck came through the drive-thru 4 times in 2 hours. Each time, the driver ordered nothing but a cup of water, and each time he specifically asked for me to hand him his order. The 5th time he pulled up to my window, he did not order anything at all. He just stopped and stared at me. Before I continue, comment below where you are listening from tonight. And if this story scares you, do not forget to hit like and subscribe. Trust me, you will want to hear how this ends. Part 2. I had been working at that Chick-fil-A for almost 3 years, and I had been a team leader for the last one. I knew the job inside and out. The closing shifts were usually easy. After 9 p.m., the rush died down to a trickle, and I could focus on getting everything cleaned and prepped for the morning crew. That Friday started normal. The dinner rush was busy, but manageable. By 9, the dining area was nearly empty, and most of our business was coming through the drive-thru. I had 2 co-workers in the kitchen handling food prep, but I was alone at the drive-thru window. That was standard for slow nights. The first time I noticed the black pickup truck was around 8 p.m. It was a Ford F150 older model with tinted windows and a Texas plate I couldn't quite read in the darkness. The driver pulled up to the speaker and ordered a cup of water. Nothing else. When he got to my window, I handed him the cup. He was wearing a black baseball cap pulled low, and I could not see his face clearly. But something about the way he reached for the cup made me uncomfortable. He did not just take it. He let his fingers brush against mine and held them there for a second too long. "Thanks, sweetheart," he said. His voice was low and rough. I pulled my hand back and closed the window. He sat there for a moment, not driving away, just sitting. Then he finally pulled forward and left the parking lot. I shook it off. We got weird customers sometimes. It was part of the job. Part 3. At 8:45, the same truck came through again. I recognized it immediately. Same black F150, same tinted windows. This time, when he got to the window, he said something that made my stomach drop. "Can I get the same girl to hand me my order?" I was the only one at the window, so I did not think much of it at first. I handed him his water, and again he grabbed my hand and held it. "You have soft hands," he said. I yanked my hand back harder this time. "Sir, please just take your order." He laughed a low chuckle that made my skin crawl. "See you soon," he said. Then he drove away. I told my co-worker Deshaun about it when he came up to grab some cups. He laughed and said the guy probably had a crush on me. "You are too pretty for the drive-through window," he joked. "You're going to get all the creeps." I tried to laugh it off, but something felt wrong. The way the man said, "See you soon," did not sound like a flirtation. It sounded like a promise. Part 4. The third time was at 9:20. Same truck, same order. This time I asked Deshaun to hand him the water. Deshaun went to the window and passed the cup through. "Where is the girl?" the driver asked. "She is busy," Deshaun said. "Have a good night." The driver did not take the water. He just sat there staring past Deshaun, trying to look into the kitchen. After a long moment, he finally took the cup and drove away. Deshaun came back looking unsettled. "Okay, that guy is weird," he admitted. "Maybe you should tell the manager." I called my manager Brenda, but she had already left for the night. I left her a voicemail explaining the situation. The fourth time the truck came through was at 9:50. This time, he did not order water. He did not order anything. He just pulled up to the speaker and sat there in silence. "Hello, welcome to Chick-Fil-A. How can I help you?" I said through my headset. Nothing. "Sir, can I take your order?" Then his voice came through clear and cold. "What time do you get off tonight, Jessica?" I felt like someone had dumped ice water down my spine. I had never told him my name. I looked down at my shirt. My name tag. I always wore my name tag. But it was not there. I remembered now. The pin had broken that morning, and I had put the tag in my apron pocket. I never put it back on. He knew my name. He knew it without ever seeing my name tag. Part 5. I ripped off my headset and told Deshaun to take over the window. I went to the back office and tried calling Brenda again. Voicemail. I tried the assistant manager. Voicemail. I watched the security monitor. The black truck sat at the drive-through speaker for another minute, then slowly pulled forward. Instead of going to the window, it turned and drove around the building toward the back parking lot where employees parked their cars. My heart started racing. I ran back to the front and told Deshawn and Maria, the other cook, what was happening. Maria said we should call the police, but Deshawn said the guy had not actually done anything. Sitting in a parking lot was not illegal. We decided to close up early. It was 10:15 anyway, close enough to closing time. We locked the front doors and turned off the drive-thru speaker. At 10:30 we were ready to leave. Maria and Deshawn offered to walk me to my car, but I told them I would be fine. The employee parking lot was right behind the building, well lit with security cameras. I had my keys in my hand and my phone ready to dial 911. I pushed open the back door and stepped into the cool night air. The parking lot had 4 cars in it. My silver Camry, Deshawn's old Civic, Maria's minivan, and 1 other vehicle. A black Ford F-15 parked right next to my car. The lights were off, but I could see a figure sitting in the driver's seat. I spun around to go back inside, but the door had already closed behind me. It was a security door. It locked automatically from the outside. I was trapped. Part 6. I ran. I did not think about it. I just ran around the side of the building toward the front parking lot. Behind me, I heard the truck's engine roar to life. The front parking lot was empty. The dining room lights were off. I could see the glow of the drive-thru menu board, the only light in the darkness. I ran toward the drive-thru lane. There were cameras there. At least there would be evidence. The truck came around the corner, its headlights blinding me. It stopped about 20 feet away, blocking my path to the street. The driver's side window rolled down, and I finally saw his face clearly in the light from the menu board. He was maybe 35 or 40, with a thin face stubble on his chin and eyes that were too wide, too intense. And I recognized him. 3 months ago, this same man had come through the drive-thru during a lunch shift. He had asked for my number while I handed him his food. I said no. I told him I had a boyfriend, which was not true, but it was the easiest way to shut down that kind of conversation. He had seemed okay with it then. He had smiled and said, "Maybe next time," and driven away. I had forgotten about him completely, but he had not forgotten about me. "You should have just given me your number, Jessica," he said. His voice was calm, almost sad. "Now look what you made me do." He opened his door and stepped out of the truck. Part 7. I screamed. I screamed as loud as I could, hoping anyone would hear me, and someone did. A police cruiser turned into the parking lot. I do not know if the officer heard me, or if he was just doing a routine patrol. It did not matter. He was there. The man saw the police car and froze. For a second, I thought he was going to come at me anyway. But then he jumped back into his truck, threw it into reverse, and tore out of the parking lot, tires squealing. The police officer pulled up next to me. I was shaking so hard I could barely speak, but I told him everything. He radioed for backup and took down the description of the truck and the driver. Another officer arrived and escorted me back inside the restaurant. Deshawn and Maria were panicking, wondering where I had gone. When I told them what happened, Maria started crying. The police pulled the security footage. They got a clear image of the truck and a partial plate number. One of the officers drove me home and made sure I got inside safely. Part 8. They caught him 3 days later. His name was Gerald Wayne Hollister, 38 years old, from a town about 40 miles outside Houston. When they searched his truck, they found a folder with photographs of me. Dozens of them taken over the course of weeks. Photos of me at the drive-thru window, photos of me walking to my car, photos of me at the grocery store, at the gas station, at my apartment complex. He had been following me for nearly 2 months. They also found a coil of rope in his back seat and a roll of duct tape. Gerald Hollister had a record. He had been arrested twice before for stalking. 2 different women, 2 different cities. Both times he had gotten off with probation and a restraining order. This time, with the evidence they found, he was charged with stalking, harassment, and criminal menacing. He is still in prison. I quit Chick-fil-A the week after. I could not go back to that window, could not stand there knowing that anyone could be watching me. Before I left, I cleaned out my locker in the break room. At the bottom, under my spare apron, I found a folded piece of paper that I had never seen before. I opened it. The handwriting was small and cramped. It said, "I watched you every night for 47 days. You never noticed. But I noticed everything about you." I do not know when he put it there or how he got access to the break room. The police said he might have come in during a busy lunch rush when employees were running around and no one was watching the back. That note still haunts me. 47 days. He had been watching me for 47 days, and I never knew. I'm more careful now. I pay attention to the cars around me, the faces in the crowd. I never work closing shifts, and I never walk to my car alone. But sometimes, even now, I catch myself checking my rearview mirror, looking for a black pickup truck that might be following too closely. Some people never learn what it feels like to be hunted. I hope you never do. But if you ever get that feeling in your gut, that instinct that tells you something is wrong, do not ignore it. Run, scream, fight. Do whatever you have to do. Because sometimes the person watching you is a lot closer than you think. Story 3. The Bathroom Encounter Part 1. My name is Daniel. I was 24 years old and working as a shift supervisor at a Chick-fil-A in Orlando, Florida. It was a Wednesday evening around 8:20 p.m., and the dinner rush had finally died down. That is when one of my employees told me something strange. A woman had walked into the bathroom almost 40 minutes ago and had not come out. I went to check, thinking maybe she was sick or needed help. But when I opened the bathroom door, it was empty. She was gone. The only problem was she never walked out the front. And the back door, the one that was supposed to be locked, was cracked open. Before I tell you what happened next, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story took a turn I never could have expected. Part 2. I had been working at that Chick-fil-A for almost 4 years, 2 of them as a shift supervisor. By that point, I thought I had seen everything. Angry customers, kitchen accidents, the occasional drunk person stumbling in at 9 p.m., demanding a spicy chicken sandwich. But nothing prepared me for that Wednesday night. The evenings started slow. We had the usual after-work crowd between 5 and 7, but by 8, the dining room was nearly empty. I was doing a walkthrough of the restaurant, checking inventory and making sure everything was clean, when one of my cashiers, a 19-year-old named Alyssa, flagged me down. "Hey Daniel, there is a woman who has been in the bathroom for like a really long time," she said. I am starting to get worried. I asked her how long. She said at least 30 or 40 minutes. That was definitely unusual. Did she seem okay when she came in? I asked. Alyssa shrugged. I do not know. She was wearing this big black jacket and had a backpack. She looked kind of nervous, I guess. She kept looking around like she was checking if anyone was watching her. I told Alyssa I would handle it and walked toward the women's restroom. Our bathrooms were in a short hallway near the back of the dining area, around a corner from the main seating. There was a single occupancy men's room and a single occupancy women's room. I knocked on the women's room door. Hello, Mom. Is everything okay in there? No response. I knocked again, harder this time. Mom, this is the shift supervisor. I just want to make sure you are all right. Still nothing. Our policy was to wait before opening a bathroom door in case someone was just taking their time. But 40 minutes was way beyond normal. I grabbed the bathroom key from the office and unlocked the door. The bathroom was empty. Part 3. I stood in the doorway confused. Alyssa had seen the woman go in. No one had seen her come out. The dining room was small enough that we would have noticed someone leaving, especially someone in a big black jacket with a backpack. I stepped inside and looked around. The bathroom was standard, toilet sink mirror, a small window near the ceiling for ventilation. The window was maybe 2 feet by 1 foot, just big enough for someone to squeeze through if they were thin enough. And the window was open. I pulled myself up on the sink to look out. The window opened into a narrow alley that ran between our building and the storage area at the back. I could see the dumpsters from here and beyond that, the employee parking lot. My first thought was that the woman had climbed out the window. Maybe she was shoplifting and got scared. Maybe she was homeless and just wanted a warm place to rest before moving on. There were a dozen explanations that made sense. But then, I walked back to the kitchen and noticed something that made my blood run cold. The back door, the one that led from the storage room to the alley, was slightly open. Not all the way, just a few inches. Enough to see the darkness outside. That door was always locked. It could only be opened from the inside. Part 4. I called my 2 kitchen employees, Marcos and Brittany, over and asked if either of them had opened the back door. They both said no. I asked if they had seen anyone come through the kitchen. They said no. I went to the security monitor in the office and rewound the footage. What I saw made me sick to my stomach. At 7:55 p.m., the woman in the black jacket entered the bathroom. On the camera covering the dining room, you could see her walking down the hallway and opening the bathroom door. She never came back out. But at 8:12, the camera covering the back door showed something else. A man. Tall, wearing dark clothes and a ski mask, slipping through the back door into our storage room. He moved quickly, staying low, like he knew exactly where the cameras were. He'd been waiting in the alley, and the woman had let him in. I realized what was happening. The woman was not a customer. She was a scout. She had come in to unlock a way inside. And now there were 2 strangers somewhere in my restaurant. I grabbed my phone to call the police. But before I could dial, the lights in the storage room went out. Part 5. The storage room was a large space connected to the kitchen, filled with shelves of supplies, a walk-in cooler, and a walk-in freezer. The light switch was on the inside, near the door. Someone had turned it off from within. I told Marcus and Brittany to get out front with Alyssa and start quietly evacuating any remaining customers. I said there might be an intruder and we needed to call the police. Brittany's eyes went wide, but she nodded and ran toward the front. I should have gone with them. I know that now. But I was the supervisor. I felt responsible. I thought if I could just see who was in the storage room, I could give the police a better description. I grabbed a flashlight from the office and walked toward the storage room door. My hand was shaking as I pushed it open. The room was pitch black. I swept the flashlight beam across the shelves, the boxes, the pallets of frozen goods. I did not see anyone. Then the door slammed shut behind me. I spun around and grabbed the handle. It would not turn. Someone was holding it from the other side. I heard a voice through the door. Female. The woman from the bathroom. "Stay in there and keep quiet," she said. "We will be done in 5 minutes." Part 6. I pounded on the door. I screamed for help. But the storage room was at the back of the building and the door was thick. I do not know if anyone could hear me. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. 911, what is your emergency? My name is Daniel. I am the supervisor at the CHICK-FIL-A on Colonial Drive. There are intruders in the building. They locked me in the storage room. I think they are robbing us. The dispatcher asked me to stay on the line and said officers were on the way. I pressed my ear to the door, trying to hear what was happening. I heard footsteps, multiple sets moving quickly through the kitchen. I heard the beep of the cash register opening. I heard the thump of the safe in the office being dragged across the floor. Then I heard Brittany scream. My heart stopped. Brittany was 19 years old, a college student who worked part-time to pay for her books. She was quiet and kind and always offered to stay late when we were short-staffed. And now she was screaming. I threw myself against the door, once, twice, 3 times. It did not budge. Then I heard a man's voice, deep and muffled, saying, "Shut up and get in the cooler, now." They were putting my employees in the walk-in cooler. I heard Brittany crying. I heard footsteps fading away. Then, silence. Part 7. I do not know how long I stood there in the darkness listening. It felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then I heard sirens, distant at first, then closer. The wail of police cars pulling into the parking lot. I heard shouting, running footsteps, the back door slamming open. Then my door unlocked. I stumbled out into the kitchen flashlight raised like a weapon. A police officer grabbed my arm and told me I was safe. The intruders were gone. They had fled out the back when they heard the sirens leaving the safe half open on the office floor. They had gotten some cash from the registers, maybe a few $100s, but they did not have time to crack the safe. Brittany, Marcus, and Alyssa were found in the walk-in cooler, shaken but unharmed. Their wrists were bound with zip ties, but the intruders had not hurt them. It took me a long time to stop shaking. Part 8. The police caught them about a week later. There were 3 of them. The woman, whose name was Denise Hartley, was 32. The man in the ski mask was her boyfriend, Ray Caldwell, 36. There was a 3rd person, another man who had been waiting in a car in the alley. They had done the same thing to 4 other fast food restaurants across Central Florida. The woman would go in, find a way to unlock a back entrance, and then the men would come in after closing to rob the place. We were the first restaurant where they hit before closing time, which is why they did not get away. The police found detailed notes in Denise's apartment, maps of our restaurant shift schedules notes on which employees worked, which nights. She had come in 3 times before that Wednesday, always sitting in a different spot, always watching. My manager pulled the old security footage and found her. In every clip, she sat in a seat that gave her a clear view of the storage room door and the office. She was studying us, like a predator studying prey. The thing that haunts me most is not the night itself. It is something I saw on the footage from that last visit. When Denise walked into the bathroom right before she disappeared through that window, she stopped. She turned and looked directly at the camera in the hallway, and she smiled. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew we were watching, and she did not care. I got 2 weeks of paid leave to recover. I thought about quitting, but I needed the job. I still work there, but I am different now. Every time someone sits in the dining room too long, I watch them. Every time someone goes to the bathroom for more than 10 minutes, I check. Because I learned something that night. The scariest people are not the ones who look dangerous. They are the ones who look completely normal. The ones who smile at you and order a cup of water and ask how your day is going. You never know who is watching you. You never know who is planning something. All you can do is pay attention and trust your instincts. And if something feels wrong, it probably is.